Today was another illustration of the failures in our judicial system. It was my date to go to the magistrate's court to plead to the ridiculous charges now laid against me, the very same ones that had been dismissed out of hand at least 4 times previously and then suddenly arrived out of the blue a short time ago. I was told I could apply to have them dismissed and had prepared a case for the magistrates to consider and made the appropriate representations to the court ahead of time. Instead, counsel for the CPS, who had admitted not looking at my application evidence, was allowed to repeat as fact the same old gross distortions of events as invented by the real aggressor's copper schoolmate, including fictitious allegations about some previously undisclosed bail breaches. How very convenient. None of my challenges were allowed to be heard. The magistrates accepted the CPS story and then placed the old set of bail restrictions on me from last year. The prosecution made a fundamental error in law which was accepted as true and our challenge to this was ignored. Usual situation, the CPS brief for the prosecution just assumed they knew the law better than we did. Under S.1 Criminal Damage Act 1971, where the value alleged is under £5,000, prosecution's own papers say none value, so the offence is summary only without aggravating factors. As such, S.127 Magistrates Courts Act 1980 applies, and proceedings must be instituted within 6 months of the alleged offence. The allegation made out relates to March 2024, so any summary prosecution is absolutely out of time. There are exceptions for aggravating factors, e.g. arson, damages to religious memorials, or racially motivated, or where this forms part of a larger set of offences, the total value exceeding the £5,000 threshold. None of which apply to this hysterical allegation. The lesson here seems quite clear. However innocent you are, if the CPS have been delivered by corrupt officers who are determined to pursue a hopeless case against you, there is practically nothing to stop them. Again, the law protecting the strong at the expense of the weak. Those restrictions once again leave me wholly unprotected from further bullying, antisocial behavior or physical assault, either by my aggressor and/or the police. The problem now is that the aggressor can now come back and assault me and or my elderly father again. He has previously done both, and if I do anything to stop such attacks or if I suffer from an autistic meltdown, I could be in breach of these same old vaguely worded bail conditions that they had me on illegally for 13 months, and the year before that on the previous illegal charge. We received the CPS charging bundle late on Tuesday with only 3 working days before the committal hearing. It's 160 pages of tangled mess, with no reference to the 2 interviews during which I disposed of all the nonsense allegations, i.e. convenient omission of my defense. After these oppressive interviews, I was congratulated by the appropriate adults on each occasion as to the common-sense way in which I disposed of each allegation. Nothing in this bundle to suggest why the CPS are proceeding to charge me now, having previously rejected the same material 4 times throughout 2024. The bundle also failed to evidence that the real perpetrator, who is the alleged victim, has been shown in over 700 pieces of video evidence to have committed many real crimes against me, including most recently, but not limited to, the alleged victim physically assaulting me, without explanations by the police as to why no formal prosecution has taken place, despite admissions of his guilt. I can only guess that the corrupt officers got this carefully edited bundle, that conveniently does not provide any information for my defense, given to a new lawyer at the CPS who was unaware of what had happened previously. We have written to the borough commander suggesting that this date be put off to allow dialogue with the CPS so that their bundle can be complete and, if they genuinely then still think there is a case to answer, the hearing can be reinstated. But given that over 90% this nonsense bundle is to do with a non-existent event, which even if it had happened, would in the first instant property damage would be a summary-only offence and not an indictable offence and would still be time-barred regardless, so the possibility is laughable. On the more positive side, at least I'll be able to turn of the magistrate about all of the corrupt practices of the Cannon Hill SNT officers, one of which happened to go to school with the alleged victim. At the same time, our wonderful ward councillor has written to many of the senior officers of the Metropolitan Police and received positive answers that they will look at these corrupt practices by the Cannon Hill SNT. Some examples of the corrupt practices referred to above. The original OIC, who then perpetrated much of the original abuse of process in support of the perpetrator, was a school friend of the perpetrator, a fact offered by SGT new to our ward councillor with permission for it to be repeated. That officer falsified evidence to impose an ASB warning on me once he had no alternative but to impose it on his friend, but had clearly decided to punish me for making him do so. Similar tactics are used in much of the statements by police officers in the bundle, e.g. taking a video provided by me of the perpetrator damaging our fence to complain that in one corner of the image their bathroom window can be seen. The bundle includes a statement by SGT New on P97 that the camera showed him putting the hose into the adjacent property's flue from 0019 hours for 6 minutes up until 0025 hours. Based on a quick view of grainy video footage, I was happy to show him on my phone. To do this would have been a physical impossibility for anyone, let alone someone registered blind. The hose is not that long, and the 8-foot gap from our side is beyond any human reach. Why was it not presented for comment at either interview, and why then would the CPS have repeatedly rejected the case during 2024 and into 2025? Multiple breaches of pace where Sergeant New refused to look at the words of the relevant sections when challenged because he knew that what he was doing was not so authorized. False accounts by the OIC that at the time of the arrest I was already awake, when the truth was that I was fast asleep in bed and the physical means by which he was woken amounted to assault. as well as admissions by the OIC that he was aware of the likely traumatic effect on me of such a surprise but had taken no steps to prevent that happening. Multiple breaches of PACE in relation to improper extensions of bail imposed on me, putting forward allegations of stalking and harassment against me despite the rejection by the county court of similar allegations in the failed injunction case initiated by the perpetrator's school friend against me when bail ran out the first time, which supports my belief that the purpose of the current prosecution shows it being just another way of imposing bail for an indefinite period. The prosecution case containing none of the defense material it shows that the allegations against me are specious. None of the life-changing physical and medical injuries suffered by me as a result of the failure to protect me from repeated unwanted abusive behaviors of the real perpetrator, which are still ongoing, aka the stalking, and over the last 4 years by Sergeant New and his team have been included, let alone the ample evidence that shows that neither the perpetrator or his wife are in any way adversely affected. The bundle does not reference the multiple complaints over the years submitted to the IOPC. Several of these are outstanding, including one which may lead to a charge of sexual assault against me by the OIC.